Brr, brr. Brr, brr, brr. Something. They see me rolling in.
All right, man. Woo! Do 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 do.
Do-do-do-do-do-do.
Oh goodness. You ready?
I am ready. Yeah.
Let's do it to it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Booth Review. As always, I'm your host, Devin Primrose, joined by that Sultan of Spice, Mr. Peter Strauss. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. I'm here. We made it. We're halfway through the season, I believe.
Almost.
It's weird that No, I guess there's 18 total weeks.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
one more week till halfway through the season. I can't believe we're already almost there.
I know. Next week we'll have to do some, mid-year superlatives like me and Blake have done the last 2 years.
You're giving me more homework, I see.
Just add a little to the plate. Yeah,
That's fair.
Week 8, not as crazy as week 7, thank God. But still some big things happening.
There are a few surprises that we'll get into.
One of which, Kirk Cousins tearing his Achilles. It's the year of the Achilles just tearing on people. It's unfortunate for him. He was having a great year in his last year of his contract. So we'll see what happens in free agency for him. I'm sure somebody will take a flyer on him again and bring him in at the very least as a veteran transitional quarterback if he does indeed end up leaving Minnesota. But yeah, it's tough for them because he was looking like he was leading that team to possibly a little bit of a bounce back after starting rough. And now they've got to scramble. They'd made the trade for Josh Dobbs. There were some other big trades that went down, but the biggest news came at 1 a.m. this morning when I got a nice little ESPN notification saying that, hey, surprise, surprise, trick or treat. No tricks here, all treats. Josh McDaniels is out as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, as well as their GM, which I don't have his name off
Does it matter?
on hand right now. But no, it does not matter.
It doesn't matter what your name is because you're gone.
Mark Davis finally getting McDaniels out of there. Should have never been hired in the first place, but hey, we all make mistakes. Some of us just make them 4 or 5 times, and that's Mark Davis as an owner. So, that's the biggest news. As far as other big trades, I feel like there weren't a ton. Chase Young getting sent out to San Francisco. Montez Sweat getting sent to the Bears. Russell Douglas going from the Pack over to the Bills, which helps out Buffalo a lot. I feel like that's a little bit of an underrated move.
Yeah, that wasn't one. I have the full list here. You already mentioned the two from Washington, both key defensive pieces getting traded.
Right.
Leonard Williams, the defensive tackle from the Giants, going to Seattle, which will only beef up their defense as they are pushing maybe for a division title, which I don't think anybody expected.
Maybe.
But we'll get into that in a little bit. Philadelphia sends defensive tackle, I'm going to mess up this name, Kentavius Street, over to Atlanta. So probably to help with the Jarrett missing, injury there.
Yeah. That's another injury that happened this week that I forgot about.
Yep. Minnesota loses Kirk Cousins, gains a not quite as established QB, and also trades away one of their best offensive linemen, offensive guard Ezra Cleveland, going down to Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird what Minnesota's doing right now. I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, maybe an unintentional, or not unintentional, but one of those tanking without tanking situations of just like, we lost Kirk Cousins, like, let's make sure we don't win any more games.
But like here's the problem in the NFC, and I thought about making this for legit or counterfeit, but I decided not to. We have one that we'll get to in a little bit. So you mentioned these teams that are quote unquote tanking without actually tanking. And the problem is in the NFC, because of how bad most of that division is, one of those teams is going to get the 7th wild card. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah, and somebody has to win the NFC South.
Right. And so I thought about making the legit counterfeit this week because part of this is spurred by the MLB playoffs are happening right now. There's 2 wild card teams that made the World Series. One of them is my Texas Rangers that are playing in a pivotal Game 5 in about an hour and a half's time, which is why we're doing this a little early. But there's 2 wild card teams. One of those wild card teams happened to only win 84 games, that is the Arizona Diamondbacks. And there's a lot of talk speculating about, is there too many teams getting into the playoffs? Is the regular season becoming meaningless? Is the fact that 6 teams get in from each conference a good thing or a bad thing, or is it weakening the overall product? And we had the same thing happen in the NFL a couple of years ago when we expanded it to 7 teams, a total of 3 wildcard teams. So I do wonder if that 7th team is a good thing or not, simply because of years like this year where we're probably going to get a 7 and 10, not a math pod, 7 and 10 team or 8 and 9 team as that 7th wild card. And that's going to be a really bum game to watch them go up against either the Eagles or the Niners and get destroyed.
Well, if you want to look at it this way, the 7th seed in each conference, if it ended today,
one's currently the Vikings.
The Vikings are currently the 7th seed in the NFC. Do you know who it is in the AFC?
The Browns, maybe?
It is the Browns.
Yeah.
Now, the Browns are in a 4-way tie with the Steelers, who are technically the 6th seed because of a head-to-head win. And then the Jets and the Bengals, all 4 of those teams are 4-3. So really, tiebreakers could break that apart. It could be any 4 of those teams. But I would argue at this point of the season, like, the Jets would probably need to get Aaron Rodgers back for me to, like, believe them. But the Steelers and Browns are both relying heavily on their defenses, 2 of the best in the league. The Jets also one of the best defenses in the league. Bengals, for some reason, always have to have really bad games the first 4 games, and now they're back on a roll. Now that Joe Burrow's looking healthy, so I mean,
but who's sitting as the 2 seed in the AFC?
The 2 seed,
yeah,
are the Dolphins.
So, wow, that's a little surprising to me. But
they are. So all 4 division leaders in the AFC are at 6-2. That's the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the Jags, and the Ravens.
So
that's
now,
all tiebreakers for those 4 teams, really.
Right now, you would have the Dolphins going up against a PJ Walker-led Cleveland Browns team if the playoffs happen tomorrow, which they don't, thank God. But yeah, you'd have Miami going up against a PJ Walker-led Cleveland Browns team. In I guess there is a universe in which the Browns could beat the Dolphins simply because of how great the Browns defense has been. But is that a game that anybody really is wanting to sign up to watch? And also, I'll say this. I do think that the AFC is a lot deeper, and so that 7th seed should be better. But I don't think that, like, you said there's a 4-way tie or a 3-way tie.
4-way tie, like,
So it's
essentially for 6th place there's a 4-way tie.
Right, it's like Steelers, Browns, Bengals,
Jets. Yeah.
So you could still have that and just work itself out for a 6th seed if there wasn't that extra wild card.
So, counterpoint.
Yeah.
First of all, last year, the Ravens and the Dolphins both played their wild card games with their backup quarterbacks.
True.
And both almost won those games.
True.
Against the two the two other best teams in the AFC besides the Chiefs
Bengals and the Bills, right? Yeah.
The Bengals only won that playoff game because of a fumble at the goal line on a QB sneak that they ran back for a touchdown.
Yeah.
That's
true.
Otherwise, like, I think those teams, even with backup quarterbacks and stuff, can still deserve to be there. I don't know if this has changed anything for baseball, but for NFL, having one team in each division get a bye instead of two, I think is great. I think it forces teams to be the best in order to earn that bye week, as opposed to just sitting at the 2nd seed. And
I do agree with you. That's the one thing I love the most about it. Now in baseball, it's the top 2 seeds. Yeah, top 2 seeds in each conference get a first round bye, and there's a whole hell of a lot of conversation about that because I believe 3 out of those 4 seeds all lost in their respective first round, and most of them by the sweep because allegedly rest is bad.
Wham.
Yeah,
that's what I have to say about that. We're not a baseball podcast.
I agree.
You can't complain about resting. Like, that's some BS.
Yeah, you would think after a 162 game season, you would like to have 5 days off for everybody to get healthy and everybody to get, on the same page, regroup, relax a little bit, and get good to go. But no, I guess it's bad.
You also get the advantage over, because whoever you play in that second round, they're going to have gone through some pitchers.
Exactly.
And you have your full bullpen ready to go. You can pick whoever you want.
At the end of the day, stop complaining and go win. That's what it boils down to. Go win.
And next year, getting a expansion in the playoffs for college football is going to be huge. I'm excited for that. I don't think playoff expansion is a bad thing. Does it mean that sometimes we get some teams that probably don't deserve to be there as much as others? Maybe. But sometimes they also put on a show, and you look at the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, like 2 teams that shouldn't have been there, but they showed up in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
when it matters.
That game 1 was a game for the ages.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't entirely disagree with you. I do think playoff expansion for the most part is good until it dilutes the regular season.
I wouldn't go any farther in the NFL than what we're at now.
I agree.
Unless the whole league expands.
100%
maybe,
agree.
But
yeah, and I feel the same way about baseball. And as far as the college football playoff expansion, I'm with you. I do think 12 is probably too many. But looking at what the bracket would be this year, I mean, those are some pretty tasty matchups. So yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
Yeah.
Let's get into the actual NFL product though, and hop into our best of the booth. Who you got this?
Yeah, we went off a little bit on a tangent there. But speaking of college football, one man, there was some discussion about somebody who, I think the same way kind of Anthony Richardson was described as a combine guy, a highlight quarterback, a social media quarterback, if you will.
Yeah.
Got a lot of hype for not having a lot of college success. Gets his first start this week with Ryan Tannehill getting hurt, and gets the win in a pretty dominating fashion, I would say. And that is Will Levis, formerly of the University of Kentucky, now with the Tennessee Titans. Throwing 19 for 29, which is about 65%, like basically a third of his, 2/3 of his passes, for 238 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers.
Yeah.
Like, I think I read a stat earlier that said Will Levis is the second quarterback in history to do this with 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. Funnily enough, the first one to do it was also a Tennessee Titans quarterback, and Marcus Mariota.
Oh, wow.
Is the stat I read earlier. So not exactly the best company to be in, but weird that it happened twice in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And of course, giving Will Levis that award, you got to give some shout out to DeAndre Hopkins. Just the two of them just absolutely burning the Atlanta Falcons defense here. And I know they were missing Grady Jarrett, but still the amount of times that DeAndre Hopkins was just open way downfield. D-Hop, for the record, 4 catches for 128 yards.
Woo.
And 3 of those touchdowns. An average of 32 yards per catch.
Yeesh.
Just absolutely burning that defense in his first performance in the NFL. Maybe, I don't know how many teams are regretting letting him go to the second round, but I mean, he's been better than some other quarterbacks been playing this year, at least in this first game.
Yeah, I remember it was pretty crazy that the hype around him throughout the combine and like leading up to the draft had pushed him to a like potential top 5 pick is what people were saying, and then he just kept falling and falling and falling on draft night.
I mean, he was there. He was expecting to go in the first round, and then he didn't get picked till the next day.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'll say this. It's a hell of a debut. I think we have to acknowledge that. I don't know how great he's going to be moving forward. Blake has been way more on this than I have over the years, that once there's tape out on you, you're a lot easier to figure out, or a lot easier for defenses to plan accordingly for you. So now that there's some NFL tape out there on Will Levis, we'll see how he adjusts moving forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, heck of a debut for sure. I mean, you can't knock it. I do think the best thing that came out of this game is not anything to do with the Titans, but more so with the Falcons turning to Taylor Heineke, who nearly led them to a comeback, has now been named the Week 9 starter, at least for Week 9. We'll see what happens moving forward, but I think Arthur Smith would be very smart to just turn the reins over to old Taylor Heineke.
I think he's from that area too, isn't he?
Yeah.
So he's a very good fit there. He played not quite as good as Will Levis did. Couldn't come back and get the win, but I mean, did a lot more than Desmond Ridder did. So.
He also was in the hole though whenever he took over. So
yeah, and was able to. Tennessee's defense had 6 sacks. It's crazy. 5 of them on Ridder.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, Ridder has just it's got to be frustrating for Atlanta fans, because Ridder at times has looked like maybe this kid has something, but it seems like way more often now it's more bad than good. And I just think Heineke gives you a much better chance to win. I don't know if that completely knocks Ridder out of a starting position in the NFL for the rest of his future, but I don't know if he's going to get another chance to start as a Falcon.
I don't know if there's any team that I look at and think that they would have a chance of making the playoffs or making a run if they had Desmond Ridder instead of whoever was at QB right now.
Yeah.
Even with all of the quarterback changes that happened this week, part of that Las Vegas news, Aiden O'Connell has been named the starter, who almost beat the Chargers. If it weren't for some awful play calling on that last drive, almost came back and tied up the game.
Yeah,
with the Chargers. And then Josh Dobbs obviously getting the start in Minnesota. Arizona probably starting their third stringer. Kyler Murray should be back in the next week or 2, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's still no team that I'm like, yeah, Desmond Ridder is the guy that they need to make a run.
You might be right on that he might be one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, at least bottom 5 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the backups that are having to start right now, like I wouldn't put him on the Browns. I think PJ Walker is doing fine there.
Yeah. Tyrod Taylor up in New York.
Now Desmond Ridder might be better than Tommy DeVito if Tyrod Taylor doesn't get healthy.
I would agree with that.
But yeah, I don't know if there's a team this year or next year that would think Ridder is going to be the starter. I think he could still be a backup somewhere because at least he has like some experience. But
yeah, we could have seen Ridder's possible last start at least as a quote unquote starting quarterback.
Yeah.
We'll see. For my best of the booth, I also went quarterback. And this is a guy that I think we've criticized. You have definitely criticized. And it's fair, it's warranted criticism, but on Sunday, the Cowboys looked really good against the Rams, a Rams team that we've thought has been, maybe a little frisky, maybe a little feisty, also maybe a little underrated. But the Cowboys went out there, took care of business, and it started with their quarterback. Dak Prescott went 25 of 31, which is 80.6% completion percentage. It's a hell of a good completion percentage. 304 yards, 4 TDs, just the one pick, a 133.7 passer rating, which is quite good. I believe his QBR was 80.8, so on a scale out of 100, pretty dang good. He wouldn't have gotten there without CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb had 12 receptions for 158 yards and 2 of those 4 touchdowns. So good on them on the offensive side. And then I would be remiss if I didn't at least point out DaRon Bland getting his 3rd pick 6 of the season for that Cowboys defense, which is, that's crazy to get 3 pick 6s in a season. So good on the Cowboys all around. Great effort against a talented Rams team. Maybe not a super competitive, but at least a little bit of a frisky Rams team. That's the way they've looked thus far in the season. But yeah, good on the Cowboys.
I mean, it is what I said this week, that the Cowboys have to get ahead early to win games, and that's exactly what they did this week. They marched down the field their first drive and got a touchdown, got a field goal their second drive, and then on the Rams' second drive is when that pick 6 happened. So they were ahead 17-3, and then also got a safety immediately after that. I think on a blocked punt, blocked it out of the end zone. So, I mean, there was nothing that the Rams could do to come back from that. At one point, Dallas was up 33-3. So, at that point, they were far enough ahead to where, they could do whatever they wanted. So, still waiting for the test of the Cowboys trying to come back from a game, but yeah, when they perform this well, how you expect this team to perform, you got to shout them out. So,
well, I mean, Dallas gets another big test this week going up against the Eagles. So yeah, we'll see how that pans out.
Stafford, I'm not sure how long he's going to be hurt for, so the Rams might be riding on Brett Ripien,
something like that.
Since Stetson Bennett is going through his person, I don't remember exactly what happened. He was like accused of something, and I think the team told him to go away.
He's dealing with being an alcoholic is what he's dealing with. That's the last I heard, which, he dealt with all of that through college anyways. The guy was on Good Morning America drunk as hell after their championship win. So,
when you're in your 50s, I can see it. I can see you got to drink through being a starting quarterback is hard, and at his age, he's taking a lot of hits. He's working out a lot. He's got to drink through the pain. I understand it. I get it.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna go ahead and do my under review. First off, I kind of want to just throw this whole game under review because if you watched any of it, it was absolute garbage football, and that's the battle for New York between the Giants and Jets. It was just terrible football, terrible game. Not good.
Hey, Saquon Barkley tried his best, okay?
Saquon did, Which, speaking of Saquon, my under review is going to the guy who shouldn't have flippin' won Coach of the Year last year because he's not a good head coach, and that's Brian Dabble on 4th and 1, Peter. 4th and 1 on the Jets 17. You're up by 3 with 24 seconds left. I think at the time, 28 seconds. On 4th and 1, you've been riding Saquon all day. Saquon had, 150 yards, something like that?
I'll tell you the stat in a second.
Ridiculous.
The stat is
like
insane.
128 yards for Saquon Barkley, by the way.
36 carries?
On 36 carries. It's 4th and 1 with 28 seconds left on the Jets 17. So you're in field goal range, but you could essentially ice the game away if you convert on 4th and 1, and you have a running back that you've trusted all day. You've leaned on him all game to the tune of 36 carries, and what do? You attempt a field goal. You attempt a field goal to make it where the Jets have to score a touchdown. You throw out a kicker who's already missed a field goal in this game. You throw him out there to go kick another one. Go give it another shot, Graham Gano. What happens? Misses his second one of the game. They turn the ball over. 24 seconds left on the Jets' 25. Zach Wilson, to his credit, made a couple of plays. The Jets kick a field goal to tie the game. Goes to overtime. Tommy DeVito can't throw the ball. The Jets get the ball back, kick another field goal in overtime after Dory Jackson just decides to interfere terribly on a pass. Jets win in overtime when the Giants were leading with 24 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, Graham Gano has been kickers have been missing a lot of kicks the last 3 weeks, I feel like. And
Yeah.
Graham Gano had one field goal attempt in the game against Washington last week, and then 3 in this game, and has only made one of those 4.
Yep.
I don't see what the exact length is. It was somewhere between 40 and 49 yards.
I can tell you the length on this attempt. It was 35 yards.
Yeah,
Which
1 of 2 from 30 to 30.
You should be able to make a 35-yard field goal. But irregardless, you shouldn't throw him out there to attempt a kick when it's 4th and 1 and you have one of the better running backs in the league in Saquon Barkley, who has racked up 130 yards today, mind you, and all he's got to do is fall forward to get another 3 feet to win the game. And even if he doesn't, you turn the ball over on the 17 instead of the 25, so it's 8 yards further back, and they still have to go out and do the exact same thing they just did. So it's just a dumb decision. Run the ball.
Yeah.
Just run the ball.
I mean, maybe Saquon was just tired after 36 carries when each of their quarterbacks, Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito, both only threw the ball 7 times each. When's the last time you've seen a running back have 36 carries in a game?
I mean, it's
the
been
fact
a
that the
minute.
Giants wouldn't pay this man what he wanted, and that he took a little bit of a deal, but not the one he deserved for this team.
Saquon put in that much effort, and you lose the dang game instead of handing him the ball.
Yeah.
Let's call up Marshawn Lynch and see what he wants to say the coach should have done there. I think it's going to be run the ball. Put the ball in the running back's hand.
Yes,
Let the man
running backs
do
do
some
still have
work.
value. They still do.
I mean, not if you ask a GM.
Jeez Louise. Yeah, I don't know what the difference is between this Giants team last year and this year. This game may have finally
the
at least
Giants
showed us
last
that
year weren't good. That's what it is. There is no difference. The Giants last year weren't good either. They just happened to get lucky in games.
it does seem at least like if they were to pay a quarterback on their roster, they paid the right one, because Tyrod Taylor definitely laid a goose egg before he got hurt.
I mean, I honestly don't even know about that. They shouldn't have paid a quarterback on that roster, honestly.
I mean, probably also fair. I guess we'll get into my under review.
Yeah.
Which
who you got over there?
Which I'm sad about.
Uh-huh.
I am sad about it, and I haven't talked about it at all in the Discord.
Hey, Pete.
Maybe
you should just shake it off.
Maybe I will.
You got bad blood over there?
Is this what you've been thinking about all weekend?
I haven't. They literally just came to me.
Okay. You and every other sports analyst in America right now. No, I don't really want to call out anybody on the team specifically. You could say like, oh, the defense gave up 24 points to Denver, but when you look at the field position they got, like, they did the best they could. Russell Wilson only threw the ball 19 times and got 3 touchdowns. But I think the big story from this game is how Patrick Mahomes had the flu. And I'm not using this as an excuse to be like, Patrick, like, it's still the Broncos, right? You should still beat this team no matter what. And even with his illness, Patrick Mahomes, besides the turnover, still had a pretty decent game, 24 of 38. I didn't do the math on that, but that's like 60%, I think, just giving it a rough look. For 240 yards. Just couldn't get it done in the red zone. It just feels like Patrick Mahomes is the heart and soul of this team. And the way the rest of the offense like felt down because he was down. Like Travis Kelce, for any other tight end, had fine numbers, 6 catches for 58 yards. But he can only do so much, especially with this Denver team knows that like Travis Kelce is going to find a way to get open, be on him no matter what. Rashee Rice, who's been kind of the other like reliable guy, had a big drop, I think, on like a 3rd or 4th down conversion. MVS had a big fumble that gave him good field position. Mecole Hardman muffed a punt. Like, it was just a bad team morale this game. And I don't know what happened. I'm not blaming Mahomes' illness, although that probably had something to do with it. I'm not blaming Travis Kelce going to a World Series game because he can have fun, people.
It was on a Friday night.
Yeah, it was a Friday night. He can go a few hours south to Texas and watch a baseball game.
That's dumb criticism.
Yeah. When you look at the team stat, it just came down to those turnovers. Like, when a team has 5 turnovers, they're going to lose the game. I don't think anybody should be worried about this team. I don't think, like Blake said, I'm going to take them out of my power rankings. Like, every other team in the league has had a bad loss. Every other good team, I should say, has had a bad loss. You look at the Ravens, you look at the Bills. Miami lost bad to the Bills. Miami's, I think, the only one who hasn't lost to like a bad team or like a not top 10 team. Everyone else has. It's a thing that's going to happen. I don't think you should be worried about this team. I just think I'm putting the Chiefs under review because as a team, they need to be able to help Mahomes when he's not able to Superman his way back to a victory.
Hey, at the end of the day, when it comes down to game time, you just got to be ready for it. That's what it comes down to. So maybe next time Travis should call up his girl and say, get your butt out here to Mile High. We got a game to win, and I need you watching me.
Well, I don't know how many games she's going to be going to because her international tour
Cancel the tour. Cancel the tour. If I'm Travis Kelce, I'm getting her on the phone today. Saying, listen. You know what the world needs right now? The world doesn't need more Taylor Swift. We got the rest of your life to give them that. The world needs another Super Bowl for the red and white out in Kansas City. So, you know, if you really want to be in your red era, Taylor, we need you here.
I think World War III would actually start if Taylor Swift was essentially held hostage in America. I mean, technically, this would be an international stop if she wanted to go to the Chiefs game this week. But her first international show's in South America. Not not this week, but next week, I believe. I looked it up because I was trying to see how many games she'd be able to go to.
Wow.
Her first international show is November 9th in South America. So this would be her last week to be able to go without a show. And I doubt she wants to go to Germany and then go straight to South America for months. So
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I hope she does go.
You might need her this week. You might need her.
But that's my under review. It's more of a heartfelt, like, guys, Patrick Mahomes can't, like, this showed us that he is a human being who at the very least gets sick. So help him out when he's not feeling his best. That's all I'm saying.
Michael Jordan got sick too. And the man went out there and had an incredible game. And what is now known as the flu game.
And you know what? If this was a playoff game, Mahomes could probably do it.
I mean,
because he's a different man in the playoffs.
Mahomes had his version of the flu game with his leg.
Yeah.
Peg leg Pat out there.
It's crazy looking at these stats. The Kansas City had more yards, total yards, than Denver, and only had one less first down. It was literally just the turnovers.
Yeah.
And
that's how you lose games.
To be fair, three of them were on Mahomes. So he's got to move on from that, and I think he will pretty well.
Okay.
The rest of the team just has to be there to help him too.
Everybody's human, including Patrick Mahomes. Do you want to still do legit or counterfeit, or do you want to hold that one that you got? Because we kind of did a little bit of a mini one to start.
This one could be quick, actually.
Okay.
So let's get into it real quick.
What we got?
This is similar to a legit or counterfeit we had a few weeks ago.
Yep.
But now it's completely flipped. Legit or counterfeit, at this rate, the 49ers could miss the playoffs.
Counterfeit. 100% counterfeit. And the only reason I say that is because the NFC is so freaking bad outside of the top teams. And so, as we mentioned, I think there's a strong possibility that a 7-10 team or an 8-9 team will get that 7th seed. And I don't think that that's going to be the San Francisco 49ers. Can they lose the division to the Seahawks? That's definitely still a possibility that's on the table because Seattle is pretty good.
Half a game behind Seattle.
Right.
So.
But there's no way this 49ers squad misses out in the playoffs.
It's hard to say because they still have a decent amount of, with how they've been the last 3 weeks, a decent amount of losable games. Like games that they're playing against teams with winning records they play the Jags, they play the Seahawks twice, they play the Eagles, and they play the Ravens. And so if they keep playing how they've been playing, they could realistically lose to all 5 of those games.
Yeah.
Which would put them at 5-8, or if they won the opposite games, which 1, 2, 3, 4 would put them at 7-10, right at that sweet spot you said.
I mean, listen, they should beat the Bucks, they should beat the Cardinals, they should beat the Commanders, they should beat the Rams.
They should.
4 wins right there.
They should.
That would put them at 9-8, and I think that definitely gets them in that 7th seed, which they might be the best 7 seed we've ever seen if that happens.
I mean, it does help that Minnesota and Los Angeles both just lost their starting quarterbacks.
Yep.
But the Bucks and the Commanders and the Saints, I still feel like could put up a fight for that 7th spot if the 49ers continue to fall down.
Yeah.
And the Falcons, who at this point I think will probably win the division, but
we'll see.
It's hard to say. The Saints and the Falcons seem very close in being streaky enough to win the division. So
yeah. We'll see. I mean, I'm not worried about San Francisco yet. I still think that there's a couple things they need to figure out. I think that Brock Purdy is looking a lot more human than he did a couple weeks ago.
And that's why I say related, because a few weeks ago we were talking about him winning a potential MVP, which
right.
I'm glad I said counterfeit.
He's just making some bad mistakes, which, I mean, he's not technically a rookie anymore. This is year 2, but the guy only started like 6 games last year, 7 games, including the playoff games.
Yeah.
So this is, as far as games played goes, we're getting down to the end of a quote unquote year 1 run of games started. If you want to look at like a full 17 games or whatever. So he's made some mistakes that you typically see from young quarterbacks. Hopefully he figures it out and limits those like you want to see. And they can get things rolling again. I still have faith they can, but we'll see.
Yeah. Like I said, their schedule ahead just looked if you lose to the Browns, the Vikings, and the Bengals, then that leads me to believe that you could lose to the teams with winning records that I mentioned. Like, the Jags should be an easier team to beat. The Seahawks should be an easier team to beat. But the Eagles and the Ravens are 2 of the top, 3 or 4 teams in the league. So,
yeah.
And the Eagles you're going to see in the playoffs. So,
well, good news for Brock and the boys. They have a nice bye week this week
that is true.
To regroup, get things figured
I always
out.
Pick legit or counterfeits about teams that are going into bye weeks.
That's all right. But speaking of bye weeks, I think it's time that we put week 8 in the rear view, turn our attention to week 9. And hey, man, let's get picky with it.
Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it.
Week 9 is here. I am officially 74-48 on the season.
We're all tied up.
Heyo!
We only disagreed on one game last week, so
nice. All right. Well, starting us off this week, just heads up, the bye week teams are the Denver Broncos, Detroit Lions, San Francisco 49ers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I know this is a bye week where a lot of people are probably hurting in fantasy because
I'm one of them.
3 of those teams have some of the best fantasy players. So,
yep. Well, starting us off on Thursday night is a game that kind of looked like a dud a couple weeks ago. Might be a fun one. We get Will Levis in his second start for the Tennessee Titans, heading into the stadium formerly known as Heinz Field to face the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. Pittsburgh 2.5-point favorites. I think that's fair, but I am interested to see if Levis can reproduce what happened in Week 8 in Week 9 against the Steelers team. I'm picking the Steelers. I don't feel great about it, but give me Pittsburgh. Who you got, man?
We are starting off on a disagreement.
Ooh!
So, I've been pretty high on the Steelers, I would say. I've picked them to win a few games. They got me ahead of you a couple of weeks ago with their win over the Rams.
Yep.
And it does seem like Kenny Pickett is going to start. They said he is for sure going to play. But Minkah Fitzpatrick is a huge loss to that defense. And I think Cam Hayward is also still on IR. I thought he was here. I don't see his name anymore on the ESPN one, but regardless, that was a big, different position, obviously, than Grady Jarrett, but it was a huge thing for them to be missing a key defensive piece for Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins
Right.
to take over that game. Derrick Henry also last week against that good Atlanta defense had a 100-yard game, and with a beat-up Steelers team, I think, not that I would ever see myself picking Tennessee this year, but I think they could do it against the beat-up team like this. So I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans.
Listen, I don't disagree with you. I think this game is probably closer to a coin flip type game.
Yeah.
than most people think. So, yeah, I could definitely see the Titans winning it
Yeah,
for sure.
and I think the Titans' defense is a little bit underrated. Like, they're not top 10 or anything, but I think they are better than what people give them credit for.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Well, let's head over to Frankfurt, Germany, where we have another Sunday morning matchup, 9:30 a.m. over on the NFL Network. We have the 6-2 Miami Dolphins taking on the 6-2 Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City, 1-point favorites, says Vegas. I don't like it. Listen, I get that the Chiefs are the reigning big dogs currently. They're still the Super Bowl champs until somebody else wins it. But I like this Miami squad, and we talked about Miami not getting it done against the top teams this week in Germany. I say it happens. Give me Miami. Who you got, man?
Obviously, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Would I be surprised with an international? I don't know if we've really played internationally. I don't think we played in London last year. We were supposed to play in Mexico. No, we did end up playing in Mexico City one year, and I think we won that game. Regardless, for some reason, it seems like from what I've seen over in Germany, there's a lot of Chiefs fans
Probably.
in Germany, which I guess if you have, the first game coming there and you have to choose between the Dolphins and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
This will be our toughest game of the year so far, for sure. I think we will be able to bounce back from that Denver game. I think, our defense still, even without Nick Bolton, still played the best they could against Denver, who haven't really had a bad offense this season. And I think Mahomes will be healthy, and I think they are going to have something to prove this week. So give me my Kansas City Chiefs.
Makes sense. I mean, this to me is basically just a little bit of like a AFC playoff primer, because I think that it wouldn't be surprising to me at all if we see these two teams meet up again in January.
Yeah.
And so getting a little preview of that in week 9, I'm here for it. I could see the Chiefs win this one for sure. Let's go from Germany out to Wisconsin, Green Bay to be specific. At Lambeau Field, we have the Los Angeles Rams heading into town to take on the Green Bay Packers. At home, Packers 3-point favorites. Don't like that. This is a team that should not be favorited ever. They have put out a garbage product, especially offensively. Their offense has been, in fact, offensive. But the Rams, no Stafford. Starting Brett Ripien, however you pronounce his name. I had completely forgotten about that until you mentioned it earlier. And I had the Rams winning this game, and now I feel like I'm going to pick the Packers. And I don't like it. I don't want to do that. This Packers team has been bad. But I'm going Green Bay. Who you got, man?
This one is tough because with how the Packers have been playing, they're essentially a bottom 5 team in football right now. But the Los Angeles Rams also pretty hurt. Not only Matthew Stafford, technically questionable, but didn't practice today, considered day-to-day. I imagine that they'll maybe start Ripien, and then if Ripien gets hurt, Stafford could maybe go out there as the backup just to kind of keep Stafford healthy.
I mean, this is also one of those games that if you're LA, you have to look at it and say, oh, yeah, with the way the Packers have played this year, like this is a game that we should be able to win without Stafford out there. So it's a good one for him to sit out.
Yeah. Also, Puka Nacua, the breakout wide receiver, is questionable as well, was limited today at practice. So this is a pretty beat-up Rams team.
Yep.
So I do think if there's any game for the Packers to bounce back and get a win, I do think it's this one. Even though they just lost key defensive piece, Rasul Douglas, I think they
Yeah.
can still get it done against Brett Ripien and the Rams. So I'm going to take the Packers with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's stay in the NFC North and go from Green Bay to the Minnesota Vikings, who are making their way down to ATL to take on the Atlanta Falcons. Both teams sitting at 4-4. Both teams starting new quarterbacks for this game. Obviously, for the Vikings, Kirk Cousins going down with the torn Achilles, out for the rest of the year. They make the trade for Josh Dobbs. The Falcons, Desmond Ridder. Is he the future? Is he not? Who knows right now? All I know is it's Heine time, baby. Taylor Heineke is back in the building, slinging footballs. I'm here for it. Vegas also kind of likes this Falcons team. 4.5-point favorites at home. I like it. Give me Atlanta. Who you got, man?
What is interesting about this is Josh Dobbs, you think like, oh, coming to a new team, to a new system, like no way he's going to learn it that fast. But then you remember that that's exactly what happened in Arizona. He wasn't named
That
the
is
starter.
exactly what happened.
He was not named the starter until I think like the week of week 1.
He wasn't even like in the building
Yeah.
until then.
And he came out, he had a close game with Washington. They had a big lead on the Giants that they blew, and then they beat the Cowboys with Joshua Dobbs.
Yeah.
And so this game could be really close.
Could
I
be.
would not be surprised if Dobbs and the Vikings pull it off. But I'm with you on the Heine train. I enjoy Taylor Heineke. So give me the Falcons
I don't know
to
how
win at home.
I don't know how anybody can't be aboard the Heine train. Like it's just fun. Just come join us on the Heine train and root for just a fun guy. Like he's just fun.
Yeah, I saw a thing today basically saying that he's what's the quarterback from Blue Mountain State? I can't remember his name, but they're saying that like that's basically him in the NFL because he like just goes out. Like there's pictures of him with his girlfriend from Halloween. Like she literally wore like headlights on her chest area, and he was dressed as a deer. So he was a deer in headlights. It was hilarious.
I mean, last year, one of our midseason superlatives was most likable player. And I know I put down Kirk Cousins. I want to say Blake might have also put down Kirk Cousins. But I think if we did most likable player this year, it might go to Taylor Heineke. Like how can you not like this is a guy that's it's just fun. It's just fun.
Well, who's writing the superlatives? Just put it in there.
I mean, we might. We'll see. We'll see how this week goes and how he performs before we crown him most likable. But
That's fair.
going from the new Josh Dobbs team to the old Josh Dobbs team, we have the Arizona Cardinals making their way out to Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns. I didn't know this, but I think the Browns Stadium used to be a different name, and now it's just Cleveland Browns Stadium. At least that's what's listed on ESPN, which is weird. It's just Cleveland Browns Stadium. Okay, cool. Anyways, Cleveland at home, 8-point favorites, completely fair. This Cardinals team is kind of a mess. Maybe Kyler will start, maybe he won't. Might be a week, might be 2 weeks. Who knows how long it will be? Last report I heard was that he has been medically cleared. I think they're just trying to get him up to speed before getting him out there in the game. The same goes for the Browns. Will Deshaun play? Will he won't play? Who knows? He also has been medically cleared. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows who's playing quarterback in this game? But give me the Browns defense because they're at least pretty dang good. I'm going Cleveland. Who you got, man?
Yeah, especially if Kyler Murray's not playing. Sorry, I'm trying to look up that thing about Brown Stadium. Because it's weird. If I type in Brown Stadium, the first thing that comes up is First Energy Stadium. But then everything underneath that says Cleveland Brown Stadium. Wikipedia says Cleveland Brown Stadium. ClevelandBrownStadium.com. First Energy Stadium stadiumcleveland.org/firstenergy. So I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those things where like the stadium and the field have separate names, but for some reason they're both called stadium. Because like Arrowhead's like that. It's Arrowhead Stadium, but then it's GEHA Field at Arrowhead.
Yeah. Okay. So here's something interesting. So I just typed in Google First Energy naming rights, and First Energy's naming rights to the stadium began in 2013 and had been scheduled to run through the 2029 season when the club's lease of the facility expires. However, the signage was removed off of the east side of the stadium back in June. Interesting. I don't know how it took us 8 weeks to figure this out.
There's
Who
a lot
cares?
more drama going on at
Yeah.
in Cleveland than that.
Apparently, it was renamed in April from First Energy Stadium to Cleveland Browns Stadium.
It's so lame.
Weird.
First they don't have a logo, and now they don't have a logo or a mascot, and now they don't have a stadium name.
Just call it the Parlor.
Anyway, this is from the Cleveland Browns injury report today, which, by the way, a lot of people questionable on the Browns right now. Watson, shoulder, who will be listed as a limited participant in Wednesday's practice, didn't appear to be restricted with his throwing and took every rep with the first team offense in the portion of the session that was open to the media. So maybe,
Who knows?
I don't know. It's just interesting that, and who knows, maybe the Arizona defense shows up and he, quote, gets hurt in the first quarter and decides not to play anymore. Because that's what happened with, who was it, Indianapolis? He was like, oh,
Yeah.
no, I'm hurt now, man.
Well, apparently they thought he might have a concussion, went back and checked him for a concussion. He did not, in fact, have a concussion, but they kept him out the rest of the game.
I feel gross about it because part of me is like, maybe he won't play. And
I mean,
kind of hoping he doesn't play.
at the end of the day,
pick the Browns.
at the end of the day,
about it.
he probably shouldn't play, but they have so much invested in him that they want him to play, and they're also, at the same time, hating and kicking themselves for investing so much
this
in him.
might be the worst trade in NFL history.
Oh, I mean, it's well on its way.
With
The
picks that they gave up for him too. Like, I mean, they are winning
Yeah.
games, but they're not making a run with any quarterback they have on their roster right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Cleveland though, just because Arizona not gonna have I don't even know who their starting quarterback is.
I mean, I don't think Arizona even knows who their starting quarterback is going to be. But let's go.
Clayton Tune is the guy's name.
Don't recognize that name. He
He's,
already sounds like a Cardinals quarterback.
Rookie 5th round pick out of Houston. So,
Well, we'll see. Let's head out to Foxborough, where we have the 3-5 Washington Commanders coming into town to take on the 2-6 New England Patriots at home. This Patriot squad, 3.5-point favorites. Again, don't love that. I don't think the Patriots team are worth being favored in almost any of their matchups. And I have liked what I've seen from this Commander squad, especially offensively. I think Sam Howell has been a decent quarterback. The man racked up almost 400 yards this past week against the Eagles. But what is going on with the Commies trading away two of their defensive studs in Chase Young and Montez Sweat? I mean, that's only going to help out the Patriots have some success against them. I don't really know who to pick in this game. I don't want to pick either team, but I'm going to go with the Commies. Give me Washington. Who you got, man?
yeah, I made this pick before all the trades happened because I was like, the offense and defense of the Commanders have looked decent, and none of New England has really looked decent.
It's weird.
I'm still going to trust in Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell. New England is still very hurt on defense, still is questionable on offense as far as moving the ball and scoring points.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the Commanders as well, but I definitely don't feel as good about it as I did when I wrote all this down yesterday.
Yep, that's fair. That is fair. Well, let's go down to Narlands. The Superdome is playing host to the Chicago Bears coming into town, take on the Narlands Saints at home. New Orleans 8.5-point favorites over this Bears squad. I mean, I guess that's fair. I don't love what the Saints have done. I like even less of what I've seen from the Bears. Is Justin Fields still out and injured?
He's listed as questionable, was not a participant at today's practice.
So probably not playing. Probably getting
still going with Badgett.
probably getting another strong dose of Tyson Badgett. And I don't think that bodes well for them. Give me the Saints. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I did write check QB. I think if Justin Fields was playing, it would be a different story. But Badgett, the Division II star, had his moment against the Raiders, and I think that's the only moment he's going to get. Give me the Saints as well.
Yep. Nothing left to talk about in that one. Let's go out to Baltimore, where we got a bird fight. The Seattle Seahawks flying their way over from the West Coast to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Ravens at home, 6-point favorites. I'm with Vegas in this one. I like the Ravens. The Seahawks now, don't get me wrong, the Seahawks have been very good this year. And I think they are one of the better teams in the NFC. But I think this Ravens squad is good. Give me Baltimore. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm also rolling with the Ravens, not just because I need Lamar and Zay Flowers to do great for my fantasy team, but they are, if we were to have done power rankings this week, which we didn't get a chance to, Baltimore might have been my number one.
Really?
This week, yeah. It was either going to be them or Philly.
Interesting.
Are the two teams that were, like, again, as of how they performed this week, I still think KC is going to be back on top soon, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think Baltimore's up there in the top 5. It has seemed as if they've figured out some of their early season issues. Which I figured they would. They have a great head coach. He's one of the better ones in the league. So I trust Harbaugh. I like what Baltimore's got cooking now. Yeah. Let's go down to Houston. We've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming in to take on the Houston Texans. At home, this Texan squad, 3-point favorites. They're coming off of a loss to probably the worst team in football, though, in the Carolina Panthers. So I do wonder how they're going to bounce back. Part of me wants to pick the Bucs in this one because I just love the Baker Mayfield story. But yeah. Baker and the Bucs did not look great against the Bills last Thursday. Give me Houston. I really like what Houston is cooking. I like CJ Stroud. I like what DeMeco Ryans has done thus far with that team. I think they're only going to continue to improve. Again, they could possibly be a sneaky wild card team, but the AFC is so loaded. I don't know if they get there. However, I think they've got a good thing brewing. Give me Houston against the Bucs. Who you got, man?
I was hoping you were going to switch to the Bucs because I am also picking Houston.
No switcheroos.
Yeah, this game I feel like is kind of a coin flip. Could go either way, but and you could argue that Tampa Bay has more talent on the team with between the receivers and stuff like that.
Potentially.
But I like what they're doing down in Houston. DeMarco Ryan's been great. CJ Stroud has been great. Hasn't been only turned the ball over one time, I think, still, CJ Stroud. So yeah, give me the Houston Texans in this AFC NFC South matchup.
Speaking of that team that just beat the Texans, coming off of their first win of the season, the Carolina Panthers playing host to the Indianapolis Colts, coming down to Charlotte to take on Carolina. Indy on the road, 2.5-point favorites. I'm okay with that. It's been a roller coaster of a season thus far for the Colts, and I still don't quite know what to make of them, but I think they're definitely better than the Panthers. So, give me the Colts in this matchup. I don't like picking either of these teams, though. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm also going to roll with the Colts, even though they just lost to the Saints. I think Gardner Minshew's been playing great. Jonathan Taylor is starting to get back in his groove.
Yeah.
Somehow Joshua Downs has been like a fantastic wide receiver for the Colts.
Yeah.
And the Panthers are still, even though they finally got their first win, it was not a pretty win. It's still kind of an ugly game with the Texans, low-scoring game. So I'm going to take the Colts over the Panthers.
Hey, I'm just going to keep the trend going of another game in which I don't want to pick either team. And it is the New York Giants with who knows who at quarterback heading out to Vegas to take on the Las Vegas Raiders with a new interim head coach and a new quarterback in Aiden O'Connell because Jimmy G has been benched. He is not the guy for them. Vegas at home, 1.5 point favorites. I don't think that matters. This game, like we talked about, I talked about the Giants and Jets game being an awful, terrible game last week. This is the equivalent of that this week, in my opinion. I don't think this is going to be good football. I don't know why anybody is going to watch this unless you happen to be a New York Giants fan or a Las Vegas Raiders fan. And at that point, I want to apologize to you and say I'm sorry for whoever hurt you in your life that caused you to be a fan of either of those teams. There is a better life out there that you can choose. If you want to just go root for another team, it's okay. We'll let it happen. We'll let you do that. But I guess give me the Giants in this one. I don't know. I don't care. Who cares about this game? Who you got, man?
Daniel Jones listed as a full participant in practice, so I believe is back playing this week.
Good. I guess. I don't know.
So I am also, with that being said, because if it was Tommy DeVito, then I don't know about that. Even with Saquon leading the way, who was a limited participant today, but I think it's just because he carried the ball 36 times this past week, so deserves a little bit of limited rest. I get that. I'm going to take the Giants as well. Would it surprise me if the Raiders pull it off? Probably not, but I think this is an easy win for the Giants.
Well, all I have to say to the Las Vegas front office is if your new interim head coach, which I believe his name is Antonio Pierce, turns around this squad and you make the playoffs with him and then kick this one to the curb as well, you deserve to just float and NFL purgatory for the rest of your existence because you did that to Rich Bisaccia, who was a great interim head coach and deserved a chance at leading this team moving forward. And he said, no, we're going to go with Josh McDaniels. And you see how that turned out. Don't make the same mistake again. That's all I got to say. Let's go out to Philly for an NFC East divisional matchup. We have the Dallas Cowboys 5-2 coming off the big victory against the Rams, heading into town to take on the 7-1 Eagles. The Eagles who kind of snuck away in a little bit of a close one this past week. Philly at home, 3-point favorites. Probably fair. Philly 7-1, best record in the NFL, coming off of a Super Bowl appearance last year. Definitely one of the best teams in football, but they've looked vulnerable. They've looked a little flat at times. This is not the same offense. Defensively, they're still allowing teams like the Commanders to put up some big points on them. And when we're talking big points, we're talking a team that just happened to put up 43. I'm going with Dallas in this one. Who you got, man?
Ooh. Another disagreement for us. No, I'm going to go with the Eagles. Like I've said, the Cowboys, if they want to win, they have to get ahead early. And I think this Eagles defense is good enough to at least hold them for the first drive or maybe 2 to field goals instead of touchdowns. I think the Eagles offense, I mean, Nick Sirianni said it. The Eagles, it's 1st and 9 because that brotherly shove is unstoppable with that team. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Eagles. Jalen Hurts, I don't think has lost to the Cowboys in his starts. I know he didn't last year because he only played the one game against them, but regardless, I just like the Eagles a lot more than the Cowboys, and this game's going to be close. It should be fun, but I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Again, the Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL. If not, I mean, they have an argument for being the best, at least record-wise. So, yeah, fair, completely fair. Let's move to Sunday Night Football. I mean, we've got the Damar Hamlin game. That's what we got going on here. It's the 5-3 Buffalo Bills heading into Cincinnati to take on the 4-3 Cincinnati Bengals. And hey, at home, Cincinnati 2-point favorites. I like it. I like what I've seen from the Bengals turning their season around from that atrocious start. I think Joey B and the boys are starting to cook, and I like it. Give me the Bengals. Who you got, man?
I am also going to go with Cincinnati. I just know thinking about their playoff game last year, and I even though they've had some great wins, the Bills have had some great wins this year. It just still kind of feels like their time is done, and the Bengals are starting to turn around. And I think this is the real game for the Bengals to come in and be like, we're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the AFC.
Yeah,
and we're back with a vengeance.
Yeah, this is definitely the showcase game for Cincy.
Now, do not put Damar Hamlin in this game. Keep him on the sideline. Do not let him suit up.
Oh man,
what
if he comes in and just like balls out, like has a fantastic game?
I saw a skit because like at this point, like you can't let go Damar Hamlin. Like he's the spirit of your team now.
Right.
Like you put his jersey and name on your ambulance.
Yeah.
Like, and I think I saw a skit of like, man, Damar Hamlin's not performing really well. Like he's just dead cap now. We need to don't say he's dead. Don't say that. Don't say that.
Oh,
I had to go off on a tangent on that because it was one of the funniest videos I've seen as it comes to football this year. But no, give me the Bengals. I think they're going to prove to the league that don't judge them based off their first 4 games. So
yeah. Well, that brings us to Monday Night Football, and we have the Los Angeles Chargers heading into Jet Life Stadium to take on the New York Jets. On the road, 3.5-point favorites for this Chargers squad. I like that this Jets team is a great defense and a guy that can sometimes do something on offense in Zach Wilson. Part of me wants to see the Chargers lose this game because I still want Brandon Staley out of town. But I think they're just too good. I'm taking the Chargers. I'm doing it. I'm taking the Chargers. I'm not going to fall for the Jets somehow keeping their season alive, sitting at 4-3 over there. This is a team that should not be 4-3. Give me LA. Who you got, man?
How dare you talk about the New York Jets like that? I'm actually not offended, but I'm picking the Jets. Just, I think their defense is really good, and the Chargers are going to get put in a situation that Brandon Staley's going to make the wrong decision, and the New York Jets defense is going to hold up.
Maybe.
And all it takes is for Breece Hall to have one good play to win games, apparently. So
True. True.
Yeah, we're disagreeing on a lot this week. I think 4 games.
Hey, that's good.
right? Tennessee and Pittsburgh, Miami and Kansas City, Dallas and Philly, and now Los Angeles and the Jets.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm taking the Jets. I'm on the Jets train. I'm not on the Chargers train. Also at home, they're used to that turf. That turf at the MetLife Stadium is awful, and they're used to it. So I'm going to take that into account as well.
Well, listen. If Justin Herbert tears his Achilles at MetLife Stadium, I think the NFL's got to do something. Fix the field. Fix the field at that point.
Yeah.
Can't have two guys, two star quarterbacks, fall victim to that turf. Yeah. Anyways, I think we have a good, decent slate of games. A handful of who the hell cares games, but a couple of like really good ones between the heavy hitters: Bills, Bengals, Eagles, Cowboys. Yeah.
Miami, Kansas City.
Yeah.
Tennessee, Pittsburgh aren't good teams, but they're evenly matched teams. So that
Yeah.
should be fun.
Yep. Listen, I'm here for it. Week 9 looks good. But hey, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us in whatever capacity you're doing so. If you're watching us on YouTube, hey, thanks for hanging out. Make sure you click that follow and subscribe button. That way you're notified when we go live, usually on Tuesdays, sometimes on Wednesdays. We just make it up whenever we want. If you're listening to us in your vehicle, on the way to work or at work or wherever, hey, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for doing so. If you feel like you just really want to send some kind words away, leave us a review. If you feel like you just really love what we're doing, leave us, a star rating. We're okay with 1 star. We're really happy with 5 stars. We don't care. Whatever you want to do. We do have some socials. Follow at your own risk. Hop into the Discord. That's where the fun is always going down. That's where we're constantly talking about sports, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, hockey, any of them. We don't care. We don't discriminate. But most importantly, we love you. We thank you. We'll see you next week. And I believe that's that.
Ka-chow.